handsome. Medicine for a lonely world. What could that be? Have you ever met someone casually or unexpectedly, and without knowing anything about you, without proving a thing, they simply and powerfully listened to you with their whole being? As if by their attention they were saying, in the most authentic way, who you were and what you were mattered greatly. Their focus, their spotlight, beamed you up, lit you up to a higher place. Deep listening has this power. It's a skill set. It lights up the moment and brings more loving kindness into everyone's presence. It's a thing that makes the world a world worth living. It's kindness in action, loving kindness, which is at the core of all spirituality and great religions. And it is the best name for God that I know, loving kindness and listening. Paying deep attention is an essential skill for our increasingly diverse world. Listening is a courageous act and medicine for this lonely world. It's a requisite for creating community, an essential skill, because really, the more uniquely human we are, the better we can adapt and stay relevant in a radical and yet unknown changes that AI will bring. Because really, if you think about it, human beings who act like robots are going to be more likely to be displaced by robots. As spiritual beings, it is more than time for us to fully inhabit our humanity, to be more, and maybe even do a little less. David Brooks has a new book out called How to Know a Person, The Art of Seeing Others Deeply and Being Deeply Seen. It says that this is a skill set for our wonderfully diverse world, so we can move forward. He says we evolved in small, homogeneous communities where we shared culture and rituals, and for better or worse, and I think for better, we're not that anymore. Brooks's new book gets to the bread and butter of spirituality. How do you stay engaged with what disturbs you? How do you stay engaged with what disturbs you? How do we reach across the divide and talk to difference? We say here at Unity San Francisco that we are a radically inclusive community, and we are diverse in color and sexual orientation and age, but we are a self-selected, progressively liberal community of eclectic believers who believe in a God that is between us and within us, not corporeal. We are rooted in the Bible, but we equally value the holy stories of other traditions. And we appreciate the overlap of scientific theories. And we recognize that we don't know everything, which is wisdom in any tradition. So there's a lot to talk about. But the truth is, we could use some help in knowing people across other political persuasions, even our own families, who may share DNA, but not our beliefs. A pretty good topic for those of you who are considering going home for holidays, who may have aliens sitting at the dinner table. But how do we do this? It's a muscle and a skill set for every spiritual journey of love in the world. To stay engaged with what disturbs us, our own shadows, and that which we do not understand. This is brave work to know one another, to know ourselves, and to allow ourselves to be seen. This is the poet E.E. Cummings. We do not believe in ourselves until someone reveals something deep inside us that is valuable, worth listening to, worthy of our trust, and sacred to our touch. Once we believe in ourselves, we can risk curiosity and wonder, or any experience that reveals the human spirit. David Brooks is not a poet, nor is he a self-help author, or a progressive thinker, really. He's a Republican columnist for the New York Times. But he explains in his book that he is capable of change. He is a grower. He is a grower. And what he is he is gifted with a profession that allows him to meet and have a conversation with all forms of people, different people from all walks of life, the political elite and the extraordinary, ordinary people on the street. He's learned from both perspectives, the street view and the elite view. And he has grown to think that this skill, how to stay engaged with difference, how to know a person, is medicine to heal our lonely world. Because for all our instant connections, our social media, our daily news cycles, entertainment, people are increasingly isolated and lonely. 36% of Americans poll as being lonely much or most of the time. And we are unsatisfied with small talk. According to the Washington Post article, there is a late pandemic malaise. Most people are wanting more meaningful conversations in their daily lives, and this tracks with behavioral research that consistently finds the more and deeply intimate conversations people have on any given day, the happier they are. Especially when they had an unexpected and relatively deep conversation with people they had just met. Most people enjoy getting beyond the superficialities. It's not really hard to get beyond how are you and what do you do for a living. Anyone can begin by reaching out in kindness and respect into a deeper conversation to feel more connected. Here are some inviting beginning questions. What do you love doing? What do you regret most? What is it in your life that you feel most grateful? Or if you're going to become a close friend with someone you just met, what would you want them to know? And this is good. Can you be yourself where you are and still fit in? How do your ancestors show up in your life? And this is a good one, especially when you look across the dinner table and somebody says something so ridiculous that you're speechless. How did you come to believe that? But Brooks says also that there are skills to be learned. He says there are two kinds of peoples, illuminators and diminishers. Or I would say a continuum of skills, because we are never just one thing. Illuminators and diminishers. Diminishers, I love diminishers. It reminds me of the term in a Harry Potter movie where Dumbledore introduces the deluminator. So he turns off the streetlights with this deluminator, and that's what they do. Diminishers, the putter-outers of streetlights, they're not curious. They make assumptions. They believe and they trust stereotypes. They may ignore you, and they do not ask questions. They are people who top you in a conversation. I know exactly what you're telling me about. Enough about your mother. Let me tell you about my mother. And really, all of them, there is no connection there between people. As a grief counselor, this is way too common in grief, where supposedly they are trying to connect, but they're still acting out their own grief. They're acting out their own stories, just plain denial. So they can't be there for other people. Illuminators, on the other hand, are those who accompany you for a conversation or for a lifetime. Brooks defines it as an other-centered way of walking with another. They are honestly curious. They ask questions. They make us feel special and lit up. Brooks says this about illuminators. They seduce you with an inverse charisma. A sense of being listened to with such intensity that you are invited to be your most honest and sharpest self. Here's a short list of illuminator skills. The first one, as a hospice chaplain, I call it the ministry of presence. In psychotherapy, we might call it having positive regard. It begins with how you walk into a room, making eye contact, having an authentic, open-hearted curiosity about the being that is in front of you. The second thing is the attention is focused. There's no dimmer switch. There's an on and there's an off. There's no multitasking, no call waiting, and no texting. On conveys silently that you are a priority, a real person that I respect, not a problem to be solved. And the third thing is this beautiful thing that many people don't understand, the idea of silence, the idea of the pause. We wait to absorb what was said, and then we respond. Making conversation is about beginning one place and ending up something else. I say something, you respond to it. So we start out in one place, but we move to another. We don't just make declaratory statements. But we ask questions. As an active listener, Harvard put out a study recently about how doctors could show their patients they were better listeners. They found that it takes 3 follow-up questions to really feel that you're being heard. Hello, how's that knee? How far can you walk without pain? What do you do for the pain? 3 questions. Asking questions makes them the authors of their tales, not witnesses to their own stories. They ask questions about their story. In my spiritual direction training, it was said recently that we can listen another person's soul into discovery. I love that. Listen another person's soul into discovery. Did I just say that? Wow, I didn't know I felt that. Very powerful. And we do that by asking questions. Here are some a little more complicated questions. At what crossroads are you? What is this chapter of your life? What would you do if you weren't afraid? What's the no or the refusal that you keep postponing? What's the commitment you are keeping that you no longer believe in? And what's the talent you're not using, or the gift that you keep holding in exile? Finally, and a little more subtle, is his recommendation to stand in another person's standpoint. And this is interesting, especially for Christmas dinner, is to keep our commonalities in mind. He says to keep the point of agreement at the center, the gem statement. Keep it in the middle to guide all your language. I'm related to this person. I do not want to alienate them. Find the commonalities. Hold that in the back of your mind and let it guide your conversation. And finally he says, find the disagreement under the disagreement. And he says this, tax policy is not about tax. So How to Know a Person is an important book for a better world, a more civil, loving world. And it's my favorite candidate so far for Unity San Francisco's 2024 book review salons. Reverend Ken will have other possibilities for that you'll be hearing about. So which one are you most of the time, an illuminator or a diminisher? How can you be a better listener and healing medicine for a better world? How about this? When you make your to-do list tomorrow, make a to-be list, a parallel to-be list. And even if you have only 15 minutes free each day, make a list of the specifics that you can do to reach out in curiosity for common ground and more kindness in the world, specifically your world. I'm going to close and I'm reminded of a sacred tenet in mystical Judaism. It says that we are responsible. at the end of our lives for every holy spark that we did not ignite. So watch for them. Watch for the holy sparks that might be generated in your life, and for the world. By talking to the person sitting beside you on the bus or the BART, or any other place that Spirit may be inviting some beautiful, holy conversation to happen. Be the medicine for a lonely world. Try it. Could be fun. Thank you.